I've talked about production a couple times on this channel, and there's still a lot to talk about. But I haven't yet touched the songwriting aspect, which I argue it's my forte. So let's look at a subject that constantly bothers many musicians I know, which is the difficulty many have to actually finish a song they started, or even managing to break past a single loop. I never had much trouble finishing, at least relative to these people. After all, I already have 4 released albums and there's more to come. So maybe it would be helpful to outline my process. It might not work for everyone, it might not work for you, but it could be a helpful procedure. So here we go. Step 1. You think of a song. It could be a loop, could be an intro, could even be a song structure. Whatever that is, you write it down. In my case, I sketch it in my DAW. For me, it's helpful to have that sketch sound close enough to the planned finished product, because that motivates me to keep working in it. Could be different for you, but that's my relationship with my sketches. The better they sound from the get-go, the more excited I will be to see that finished. In any case, work on that sketch until you're satisfied with what you came up with. If it's a listenable sketch like that, made in your computer, don't just have the project file saved. Export an MP3 as well so you can have that sketch available for listening. Great, now you have a sketch. Step 2 is finally coming back to your sketch. Listen to that MP3 you made and decide whether you feel it or not. If you're still excited to see that sketch flourish, you will come back to it naturally. When you do, keep writing. At this point, I start having a good idea on A and B sections. Most often than not, the initial sketch will be one of these, or at least part of one of these. When I say A section or B section, I mean it's often verse chorus, but of course it depends on how you write your songs. Speaking of which, have you settled in a song structure yet? If not, then this part might be a bit of a struggle, since after coming up with AB, the rest is mystery. One could say you should go full Max Martin and make a generic pop song structure, but you gotta choose it yourself. How do you want your song to move, and where do you want it to go? That's a decision you have to make at this point. After you do, all that remains will be coming up with the remaining music and connecting the dots, and you will have a complete song. Now you might ask yourself what to do if your sketch didn't take off at first. The general answer is leave it there. Not all sketches need to be developed. Just leave it there and don't forget to make that MP3 file. Turns out that your sketch might come up later in an unexpected way. Not only once an old sketch fit perfectly with a song I was making. Here, let me show you an example. A while ago, I made this sketch for an intro. If you know me and my music, you might recognize this as Victor, a track from my latest album. But it started like this. Good start, okay, but still it was just a start. It was somewhat easy to develop, particularly because it already began the A section, but what truly helped me to know where I wanted to go with it is that I had a B section just waiting for me in the form of a previous sketch. Of course, I had to adapt it, but it fits really well. In retrospect, it's likely that the sketch I started with was subconsciously based on this one. Again, I'd probably be able to finish Set and Victor without much issue if I didn't have this second sketch, but it did help me a lot. Now, sometimes it's not as easy. The initial sketch for Esoda was instantly recognizable compared to the finished product. But the arrangement suffered a couple iterations over a quite long period of time. It took over a year to develop that. I replaced the arrangement with something more realistic and rock oriented, but it just wasn't clicking. I really liked the idea, but couldn't find a way to expand it to something reasonable. So it ended up in my sketchbook while I worked in other songs. It took me a decision to make a dance track for Chronicon to realize that sketch could work nicely as a base for that, and it all went uphill from there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I finish tracks. I hope it helps you. If it doesn't, well, then just find your workflow, your method, because I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world that can finish tracks. And that's it. See you next time. Bye bye.